Welcome back, everyone. Today we have another installment of What is God, and we're going to tack on to this conversation some more. So if you haven't seen part one, make sure you watch part one because I'm going to be building off of those ideas in part two here, and we will be doing that pretty much I think every month, if not every couple months. I want these videos to come out quite regularly. I know I'm making this video like a week after I made the first one. That's because I made the first one and I'm like, damn, I don't know if that was helpful at all, but I instantly had more things to say. So today I want to explain a little bit more what I mean by true nothing, this kind of opposite of God. I defined God in the previous video as the infinity of all infinities, true everything, everything with a capital E. This kind of thing that's undescribable by definition, because if you keep zooming out, if you zoom out of space, time, all of physics, all of unknown physics, all of imagined physics, if you keep zooming out, there's just more things. So you're never going to get to a fully zoomed out point of view. And even if you do get fully zoomed out, you're still a part of the everything. So there's like a paradox there. Again, I don't know how useful that is, but I hope that people could somewhat wrap their minds around that. So I'm defining God as the infinite of all infinities, the true infinite, and as pure nothing, as kind of the opposite to that, as the antithesis of God. And again, I don't think that that's hell. I don't think that that's Satan. I think that Satan and hell exist within the bottom of God. They're kind of in between God and the nothing. They're kind of pulling other things down to the nothing. You have to imagine that there are creatures in hell, if not Satan himself, that there's something that he fears. There's something that he runs from. And it's not so much God. It's something else. It's something. It's like the true consequence of not being with God, and that's being with nothing. And I think that that's the reality of Satan. He fell from God. Intellectual arrogance, Luciferian intellect caused him to get too arrogant, caused him to fly a little bit too close to the sun, fall from God, and then exist in this realm of the underworld of hell, where he rules. But that's still not as low as you can go. I think there's even lower than that. There's complete oblivion, and that's the end goal of Satan. I think that's where Satan's trying to get everything to. It's for entropy to win. It's for the universe to die and for there to not be another universe. It's for everything to become void, complete nothing at the end of everything. It's for that spirit to win out in the end. So Satan's fallen from God, fallen from everything, fallen from the infinite, and is now at the bottom of it, aligning himself with nothing, which you can't align yourself with. True nothing is terrifying. It's more terrifying than death. It's more terrifying than hell. It's more terrifying than anything possible. I can't think of anything more terrifying than true nothing. And to even say nothing is to put a term onto something. There's nothing there to put a term on. Saying no thing implies that there's a thing that's not there. There's nothing there. See, words are failing now. Words are failing because I exist within the everything. I exist within God. So I'm a part of it. I have a connection to it. So I'm going to be using words, even though words, to describe nothing, you'd have to use no words. Again, that's paradoxical, right? So I'm trying my best here. I hope you guys are still on the boat. Hopefully nobody's abandoned ship yet. I know that this is difficult, and we're getting through the choppy waters right now. Hopefully we find some smoother sailing once I've gotten out of the main rough. But to explain true nothing is really, it's more difficult, I think, than explaining God, because it's true nothing. You can't explain it. It's literally undescribable. But there's a level of fear that I have around it, because I think if you get pushed into it, and I think you can if you truly reject God, and even in the afterlife, if you watch my heaven and hell video, if you get into that afterlife and you still reject God, and you're in the hell of hell, and you're re-experiencing all of your sins, and you're being tortured alive, and you see Christ down there with you, and he's holding a hand out to you like, I forgive you, you're forgiven, you're saving, come with me, and you still reject it, and you still even in the afterlife, push away God and push away everything, and you want void, you want nothing, you want complete silence and calm. And even silence and calm, that's something that exists within the everything. True nothing isn't even silent, it's absence of silence. If you push yourself to that, I think you can go there. I think you have the choice. I think that's why you have free will. You have absolute free will. You can choose to completely reject God in this life and the afterlife. And if you do both, you will be pushed to true nothing. And then we get into this paradox where this is not going to make sense either, but I think once you get pushed into the void, you get truly pushed into nothing, Satan pushes you down there and goes, ha, finally, I got somebody to push into that true abyss. I think you come back because matter can exist within true nothing. Matter can only exist within the infinite, within everything, because it is matter. You can't just not have matter. It can't just not exist. Otherwise, it would be non-existence, right? Again, we're failing with language again. I apologize. I'm very, very sorry. We're failing with language again. But what if you do fall into that nothing and you come back because you have to, because you're made out of matter? There's no guarantee that you didn't lose something, that you didn't come back complete. I'm going to try to explain this again. Let's say you fall, you go to heaven, you reject God again, Satan pushes you down, you fall into true nothing, the true void. You come back because you're matter, you have to. You have the free will to push yourself down there, but you don't have the physical free will to actually exist as nothing because you are something. So you come back. But when you come back, we don't know if that's you. Like, it's you, it's all of your matter that went down there and came back, but we don't know for certain. We can never, ever know for certain as beings, as physical entities, as part of the everything, as part of God. We can never know for certain that whatever went into that nothing truly came back the same. That's terrifying to me. That is probably the most terrifying thought I've ever had in my life. I can't think of anything more terrifying than that. Now, I think that you have that afterlife experience that I detailed in Heaven and Hell, regardless of what you believe. I think so. Now, let's get back into the realm of reality here for a second to ground ourselves a little bit for, if I have any rational atheist thinkers that are still watching this who haven't gone like, man, this guy is a lunatic, I'm clicking off this video. If you guys are still here, let me ground myself in reality for a second. If you somehow have an experience when you die where your head gets crushed, like obliterated in a second, I can't tell you for certain that you have this process that I explained in my Heaven and Hell video. I can't tell you for certain that that happens. All that I can say is that most likely I think it happens because it happens in an instant, like less than an instant, like in the most minute possible fraction of time it happens, but it feels like eternity. So I think this process happens for everybody, but you go into the afterlife, whether you believe in it or not, and then you get confronted with, well, what I detailed in the Heaven and Hell video. You get confronted with your life and your sins, and then you have the choice. Do you want to become one with God, or do you want to separate from Him and fall into the void? I think I think you live that same choice out in your life when you choose to believe in a higher power, in everything, in something transcendent, in something above you. If you choose to believe in that, there's a lot of good consequences, I think, and some negative ones, but for the most part, you live a better life when you do believe in that. But if you choose to believe in nothing, you truly choose to believe in nothing, like if you follow your nihilism and your atheism to its end point, there's only really one answer there, and it's to unalive yourself and to, in the afterlife, also unalive yourself and to fall into the void. And I think that that's completely a choice. Now, I want to talk about entropy for a second. So entropy plays an interesting role in that it's the force within our universe that slowly decays it. It's the slow decay of everything. It's the slow loss of energy. And I think that force that's the force of nothing. of nothing sucking away from the everything. It's the battle between good and evil, fundamentally. You can imagine it like that, but it's this true nothing that's sucking away from the everything. Now, as human beings, we can choose to give in to the nothing, or we can choose to give in to the everything. We can choose to build and expand and grow and propagate and prosper and help others and build up communities. Or we can tear things down. We can destroy things. We can contribute. We can willingly contribute to entropy. Ending a human life is contributing to entropy in a massive way. You just snuffed out a lot of potential energy. A lot. That is why it's such a grave sin. Obviously for all the moral reasons, but also because mathematically, you just snuffed out a lot of energy. And if you snuff out more than you blaze, that's like mathematically, you could do the math there. That's how you live a bad life. You snuff out more than you spark. So the children, and they were children, the children who shot up the Columbine school, they snuffed out more than they sparked, a lot more. And their ideas were to believe in nothing, to reject God, to reject the everything, to believe in nothing, and to contribute to it, to take as many people with them as they could, to destroy as much as they could, and then to destroy themselves. Now, I hope in the afterlife they saw their sins and they were saved. But again, I can't speak to what people decide in the afterlife. I can't speak to that at all. I don't experience anybody else's afterlife but my own. But there was this idea within them that they wanted to destroy and contribute to the entropy of the universe. And they might not have put it in that terms, but that's what they did. And that's horrifying. So that's one way to look at your life. If you want to have this completely rational, analytic, mathematical mindset where everything has to be calculated and fall into the realm of facts, you can look at your life as you can believe in everything. You can believe in the existence of everything, like full stop, and you can contribute to building on that, or you can believe in nothing. And if you believe in nothing, all that you're going to want to do is destroy everything because there's no meaning. There's nothing. And again, I don't think that there's anybody out there that's like in the same way that I'm right now, believing in true nothing and true everything, but on different levels they do. Like the Columbine shooters, they believed in nothing on a lot of different levels. They were nihilistic, they were atheists, they didn't believe that they had love from their parents, they didn't believe like they had support from their community. Like there's a lot of things that they didn't believe in. They believed in the nothing side of it, even though that those things were there. Their parents' love for them was there. The community was there for them. Maybe it didn't appear that way, and it doesn't always appear that way to us. I go through it all the time. I feel like, I'll have bad days, and I'll feel like, oh, my family doesn't care about me at all. They don't understand my struggle. They don't care about me one bit. If I just left this planet, who would even bother? Who would even remember me? Like, I have those feelings. Everybody does, but you have to battle them. They're not the right ideas to win out, especially if you want to have not just a life, but if you want to have like a good life, you have to battle those you can call them demonic or Satan possessed ideas that fall into your head. Now there's another way to look at nothing that's the opposite of what I've just been describing. I've been describing nothing as the most terrifying thing ever, as entropy, as the death of the universe, as the opposite of God, right? I'm describing it in the most bleak sense, but there's a positive aspect to it as well. Potential comes from nothing. Now, this is another weird concept that people might struggle to wrap their heads around, but true nothing births potential, and it births chaos, and it births the unconscious. Those things that we can't see that are there, that are indescribable. I'll give you guys another idea. This is another thought process, or what would I call this? Thought experiment? Thought experiment. Another thought experiment that I came up with. So think in your mind of when you have a thought. Sometimes it comes to people in feelings. Sometimes it comes in words. Sometimes it comes in images. For some people, it comes just in geometric patterns. For some people, they actually see the mathematical numbers. People receive thoughts in a lot of different ways. They come down and then they get translated into something, some sort of pattern, a representation of a pattern that we can actually grab onto and then do something with it. But the thoughts aren't like that when they're birthed. If you think of thinking, again, we're hitting so many freaking spirals here. If you think of thinking and you think of a thought that pops into your head before it receives its structure, before it receives the words or the image or the patterns that make it unique, that make it graspable, before it's there, when it's kind of in that floaty spot, you can kind of imagine it in your head right now. It's like a grayish light that's like smog or smoke, and you don't exactly know what it is, but you kind of have to grasp at it and pull it down, and then it has a pattern, and then you go, okay, this is a thought that I just had. And that's kind of the process of getting thoughts. Now that smokiness, that comes from the unknown. That comes from pure potential. That comes from the pure unconscious. And then it comes down, sometimes consciously as thoughts, but sometimes subconsciously as, patterns that we just live out without thinking about it, which again kind of gets into the deep rootedness of archetypes in our collective unconscious that play themselves out through us. We don't even really recognize it unless you read Carl Jung extensively, or you kind of get into those Jungian thinkers. You start to see them in the world. You start to see that your mother is playing out like all these different archetypes. She's playing out the good mother archetype in like 15 different ways, and then she's also playing out the bad mother archetype in like 15 different ways. And those archetypes are like more real than your mom. It's real. It's deep, but those things are there. They're there, and they're a little bit more abstract. They're a little bit, they're symbolic because they're less real. They're less a part of the everything. They're closer to nothing. And in that space between, the concrete and true nothing, there's this realm of abstract, of surreal, of symbols and archetypes. And I think that's what Jung was pointing at with the collective unconscious. Now there's archetypes and characters and story elements, and all that lives in there. And religion tries to pull out the deepest parts of it and put it into a book, right? And that's what I think the Holy Bible has tried to do. It tries to pull all of that hard to explain stuff and put it into something that's a little bit more understandable. But there's a lot of stuff that exists within there. And there's ways that nothing and pure potential bleed in that aren't positive, right? There's a lot of negative thoughts and negative emotions that come in too that you can grasp onto and you can expand. And then, maybe you take one thing, you take a victimization mentality, and you can contort it and spin it and add words and add patterns onto it and add your own influence. And then suddenly you have the Communist Manifesto, right? And then who knows what that can turn into. Well, we kind of saw in the last 100 years what that kind of turned into, right? That can be twisted and distorted in ways where millions of people end up dying. And it's because the fundamental idea was rotten. It wasn't correct. It didn't fit the main pattern. Now, what's the main pattern? I think that's the kingdom of heaven. That's the kingdom of God. That's what we're trying to build. So you pull things out of this unconscious. You pull things out of this realm that's close to the void, that's close to nothing. You pull things out of potentiality, and then you start to structure them into ideas, into form, into mathematical theories, or into art, wherever it may be on the spectrum of human endeavor, whether it's scientific or artistic. You structure it into something, and if it fits with the overlying pattern, which usually is like a pyramid, then you're contributing to the structure. Now think of the Egyptians when they're building the pyramids, right? So they're building, right, one block in at a time. If somebody on the very edge was building an obelisk straight up, everybody else working on the pyramid would go, hey buddy, that's not where we're building up. We're building up this way, one at a time towards the center. And he's like, no, I want to build straight up here. That's what happens when you latch onto an idea that isn't core to the main structure. And the main structure is something religious. I don't think it's purely Catholic. I don't think it's purely one religion or another. Like I said, I think all religions have a piece of the pie. I don't think all the slices of the pie are equal, But I think all religions have a piece of the pie, and they're all kind of trying to create this pyramid, this structure, and that has to be built. If you want to reach heights, if you want to reach up to the kingdom of heaven, you have to build a structure that is cohesive together and it works together and all the patterns connect as one. And if you study philosophy and mathematics and chemistry and biology, you'll see that a lot of the honest research in those fields converge on kind of one truth. They're all kind of converging on one thing. Some of them kind of go off in their own direction, and you need to note when they do, because those are people pulling things from the unconscious and either doing it in a self-centered way to further advance their career or something, or they have all kinds of different motives, and then they build an obelisk at the edge of the pyramid, and you're like, that's not what we were trying to do. So you're pulling things in from the unconscious, and the unconscious is connected to the void, I think, and you have an obligation to separate the wheat from the chaff, to sparse what is good, to separate what is good from what is bad, and to work on what's good, and to acknowledge what's bad, and to not just throw it away, but to look at it too, to put that at a place and be like, okay, we know what's bad. You don't want to just throw it to the side and throw it back into the void, because then it'll just come right back. And that's kind of history repeating itself, right? History doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes, and that's because we throw away lessons. We all do this to some degree, but we throw away lessons back into the void, and then it comes back in another form, and then it wreaks havoc again. So there's good things and bad things coming out of the void, coming out of this underneath of the everything. And again, they're kind of like trickling in. As they come in from the nothing, they find pattern. They either find words, or they find images, or they find some sort of structure, and then they become part of the everything. But before that, they exist as nothing. If you think of true potentiality, if you think of thoughts before they become thoughts, they're just nothing. They exist within nothing. Like if I try to think of a thought before having a thought, I can't think of anything, because it's nothing. It's not there. I hope that makes sense. Again, I'm spinning in circles with my words, but that's true. I think that's true. I think that somewhat points to what the nothing is. And now I am absolutely mentally exhausted. I don't think I can go any more than that. That's kind of the limits of my thought for today. So I will build off of this again in future videos, and we will flesh out this pattern. And as we go further, I'm going to start bringing in quotes from philosophers, quotes from theologians, quotes from artists, quotes from scientists. I'm going to bring in ideas that I think either fit or help inform this theory that I'm building out, because I think it's attempting to be a comprehensive theory of everything. But as I said in the definition at the beginning of the first video, by definition, in asking this question, you can't answer it. So that always has to be in the back of your mind while you're watching this video, and while we're going through this enterprise together, because this is it's not just me. It's not just me getting on camera here. I'm listening to you guys. I'm reading your comments. They're informing me. I'm reading from other people. Like it's not just my brain working here. This is all of us. And as we move forward, we have to keep in the back of our head, we have to realize that we're not going to answer the question, but in answering it, we get closer to answering it, because the answering of the question is the answer to the question. See, a bunch of word salad there. I hope that made sense. I hope that made some sense. It feels like word salad when I say it. Like, I feel like I'm not making any effort here. I feel like I'm playing in the sand and just throwing sand in the air. Like, this feels goofy to me. And in a lot of ways, I feel very nervous when I put these videos out, because I'm putting myself on the line. I'm making myself vulnerable from like 1,000 different angles, because I'm opening like 1,000 different cans of worms that I can't crack open each one in just one video. That's why this has to be a series of videos. But in this series of videos, again, there's just too much. It's infinite, so you can't define the infinite. It's a paradox, and it's a problem that's just built into asking this question. But that's what makes asking the question so damn fun. To me, this is the funnest thing to do. To just throw sand around in the pit is fun to me. So I hope these videos are at least fun and entertaining. If they're enlightening and they're educational, and you get something from it, and you learn something, and maybe you grasp my ideas and you think I'm going somewhere, that's awesome. That's just added to me. That's just an extra. But if this is at least entertaining and you guys have fun with these videos, that's enough for me, because for me, that's kind of all I'm doing right now. I'm taking it seriously, obviously. I'm spending every single day of my life researching and informing myself to kind of further this theory. And I spend hours a day just like staring at a wall, not literally, but I spend hours a day just like walking in circles in my apartment, just thinking this idea out, because it's fun to me. To me, it's kind of the meaning of life. The pursuit of the Holy Grail is the meaning of life. It's not actually getting the Grail. So again, always keep that in mind, that as much as we blaze forward, we're not actually getting anywhere, but we're still making a lot of headway. Hopefully that makes some sense. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you guys made it to the end of the video, I applaud you guys. Thank you for watching this whole video. If you guys like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps boost this channel in the algorithm.